Think about the last time you logged into something that mattered. You typed a password, and then, because the account was worth protecting, you were asked for a second thing. A code from your phone, a tap on an app, a fingerprint. You did the work, you proved you were you. And then, the moment you cleared that last check, the server quietly handed your browser a small, unremarkable piece of text and asked it to hold on to it. You never saw it. You were never told it existed. But from that instant on, it, and not your password, was the thing that kept you logged in. Every click after that, every page, every action was waved through on the strength of that one little token. This is the story of that token, why it has to exist, why it is quietly the most valuable thing in your account, and what an entire industry does to keep it from being stolen. The wristband, the easiest way to picture it is a wristband at a festival. At the gate, security checks everything, your ticket, your ID, maybe your bag. The slow, careful part where they decide whether you are allowed in at all, but they only do that once. Once you pass, they snap a band around your wrist, and for the rest of the weekend, you just flash the band. Nobody runs your ID again at every stage. The band is not proof of who you are, it is proof that someone already checked and decided you were fine. A session token is exactly that band. When you finish logging in, the server does not want to run the whole slow interrogation again on every page, so it gives your browser a token that means, in effect, this one has already been let in. And just like the festival band, its whole power comes from the simple fact that the hard checking is already finished. Why it exists, and this is not laziness or a shortcut someone forgot to close. The web was built to be forgetful. Each request your browser makes is, underneath, a stranger knocking on the door with no memory of the last knock. Without something to carry between those knocks, you would be forced to prove yourself again on every single click, password and second factor and all. That is unusable. So the token exists to stitch those separate knocks into one continuous session. It is the thread of memory the web itself does not have. The trade is deliberate. You do the expensive proof once and then carry a lightweight token that stands in for it ever after. The entire convenience of staying logged in rests on that one small object, the crown jewel, and that is exactly what makes it the crown jewel. Notice what the token actually represents. It is not your password, it is something stranger, and in a sense, far more valuable. A claim that says, the person holding this already passed every check. The password is a question, the token is the answer, already accepted. Think of your account as a vault with several locked doors. The password is one door, the one-time code is a second door behind it, and the token is what you are handed after you have walked through both. It does not sit in front of the locks, it sits behind them. That is the whole point of it, and as we will see, the whole danger of it. Past the password, here is the part that surprises people. Everyone pours their worry into the front door. They choose a long password, they turn on two-factor, they treat that one-time code as the thing standing between them and disaster. And it is at the moment of login. But the token minted after all of that lives past both of them. So if that token is ever taken, none of those front door protections come into play, because from the server's point of view, the front door was already opened correctly by you a moment ago. The second factor does not fire again, because nothing is asking to log in. Something is simply continuing a session that is already considered authenticated. This is the uncomfortable truth at the center of the whole topic. The strongest lock on your account guards a single moment of logging in, and the token spends its entire life on the far side of that moment. When it is stolen, so what happens if that token ever leaves your device? This is a real threat worth naming plainly without any recipe for how it is done. The token is just data sitting on your machine, and if your device is compromised, that data is exactly the kind of thing hostile software goes hunting for, precisely because it is so much more useful than a password. A stolen password still has to get past the second factor. A stolen token does not. It is already past it. Whoever ends up holding a live token can, in principle, drop it into their own browser and resume your session as though they had logged in themselves, never touching your password, never triggering the code on your phone, never seeing the fingerprint prompt. They do not break in through the front door. They walk in wearing the wristband. That is why, to anyone who studies this, the token and not the password is the thing truly worth protecting, and why the whole apparatus of defenses exists at all. Here is the key idea that shapes everything defenders do. You cannot really stop a piece of data from being copied. If it exists on a device, and that device is fully compromised, the token can be read. So the smartest defenses do not pin their hope on the token never leaving. They aim at something better. They try to make a stolen token worthless the instant it lands anywhere other than your own hands. The game shifts from guarding the wristband to making the wristband refuse to work on anyone else's wrist. And there are several ways to do that, each attacking the same problem from a different angle. Binding the band. The first is binding. Instead of letting the token be a plain portable claim that works from anywhere, the server ties it to the specific context it was born in. It can be bound to characteristics of your device, the fingerprint of the particular browser and machine it was issued to, or to properties of the connection itself, so that the token only counts as valid when it arrives alongside the same surroundings it started in. The stronger versions lean on cryptography, tying the token to a secret key held by your device that can never be copied out along with it. So a thief who grabs the token alone is missing the other half and cannot make it prove anything. Picture a wristband that only lights up on the wrist it was fastened to and goes dark on anyone else. A copied token dropped into a stranger's browser on a strange machine no longer matches the context it was bound to, and the server quietly rejects it. The theft still happened, but the loot is dead on arrival. Impossible travel. The second defense watches for something no honest session should ever do. And it is my favorite because it is so simple and so human. It is called impossible travel. Your account is being used right now from one city, and then 4 minutes later, the very same session is suddenly active from a place 2,000 miles away. A body cannot cross an ocean between clicks. So when a system sees one session light up in two distant places in a stretch of time no real traveler could cover, it treats that as what it almost certainly is, a single token being used in two hands at once. It is the same instinct a bank card triggers when it is swiped in two countries an hour apart, and it generalizes far beyond geography. Defenders build a quiet picture of how you normally behave, the devices you use, the places you appear from, the rhythm of your ordinary day, and watch for the session that suddenly does not fit that shape. A token behaving unlike the person it belongs to is the loudest alarm there is. Short lives. The third defense simply refuses to let a token live very long. A stolen key matters far less if it stops working within minutes. So sessions are given short lifetimes and are quietly rotated. The token your browser holds swapped out for a fresh one again and again in the background without you ever noticing. So any single copy a thief captured goes stale almost as fast as they could use it. And rotation carries a second, cleverer benefit. If the real token and the stolen copy are both in play, and the server issues a new one, but then sees the old retired token show up again, that is a strong signal that two people hold what should have been one, and it can slam the whole session shut for both. The short life does not just limit the damage, it turns the thief's own reuse into the evidence that gives them away. The second wall. The fourth defense accepts that a session might already be riding on a stolen token and puts a second wall in front of the things that truly matter. Being logged in is not treated as blanket permission to do anything. The small stuff, reading, browsing, looking around, rides on the token. But the moment the session tries something dangerous, moving money, changing the password, adding a new recovery device, turning off a protection, the server stops and demands fresh proof. Enter your password again. Approve this on your phone, confirm with your fingerprint, right now, not an hour ago at login. This is often called stepping up, and it means the token alone is enough to wander but not to wreck. And behind all of it sits the simplest tool of all, revocations. Because the session lives on the server's terms, the server can kill it. Every honest service lets you see your active sessions and sign them all out everywhere at once, which instantly turns every token, including any stolen one, into a worthless string of characters. That single button, log out of all devices, is one of the most underrated safety features you quietly own. The double edge, but none of this is free, and it would be dishonest not to name the cost, because it is the same tension that runs under this whole channel. Every one of these defenses works by being suspicious of change, and real life is full of perfectly innocent change. You get on a plane and land in a new country, and impossible travel sees the session teleport. You turn on a VPN for entirely good reasons, and suddenly appear to be in another nation altogether. You roam from Wi-Fi to mobile data in the middle of a task, and the connection underneath your token shifts. To a strict system, every one of these ordinary moments looks exactly like a token being stolen and used from somewhere new. And so the very machinery built to lock out a thief can, turned up too high, lock you out of your own account, freeze your session, and demand you prove yourself again at the worst possible moment. That is the real double edge here. The tighter you bind the token to one device, one place, one connection, the more certainly a stolen copy dies elsewhere, and the more easily a real person who simply moved through the world gets treated as the attacker. Defenders live on that knife edge, tuning endlessly between the thief they have to stop and the traveler they must not punish. What it is really about. So here is the thing to sit with once all the machinery is laid out. We are taught to think of account security as a wall at the front, the password, the code, the fingerprint, the big proof at the moment we log in. But the moment of logging in is brief, and almost everything you actually do happens afterward, in the long quiet stretch where you are simply trusted, carried along by a small token you never see and were never told about. That token is the real key to your account, not the password you chose so carefully, and its whole life is spent behind the very locks you were watching so closely. Once you understand that, you read security differently. It is not only about how hard it is to get in, it is about what happens in all the hours after, when the checking is done, and the only thing between your account and the stranger is a quiet proof that the hard part already happened, and the constant, invisible work of making sure that proof still belongs to you. If this is the kind of thing you find yourself thinking about, the quiet machinery under the everyday internet, then this channel is your sort of place. There is no product to sell you here. It is just the systems, taken apart and explained by someone who has spent a long time on the inside of them. Subscribe and follow the rabbit hole. Next time we are going to follow the stolen card numbers into the dark. Before a thief ever spends big, they test tiny, almost invisible charges pushed through quietly to find out which stolen cards are still alive, and we will look at the machinery that has to catch those little probing transactions in the space of milliseconds before the real damage ever begins.